What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Operators Podcast, episode 16. We have the most special guest. Forget about Jeremy. Forget about Marty. Forget about whoever else we had fill in. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Connor McDonald. What's up, everybody? He's my CMO. He's my best friend. We've lived together for multiple years, and we're so happy to have him. What's up, Connor? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. It's a very kind intro, Sean.
It all started with a rumor, a whisper about a private WhatsApp chat where 9-figure entrepreneurs swapped insights, information, and deals behind closed doors. And now, for the first time ever, these operators are pulling back the curtain on their clandestine world right here on this podcast. You're about to witness something truly remarkable. A glimpse into the minds and businesses of the world's most successful operators. So sit back, relax, and stay glued to your headphones. The chat is about to begin.
Wait, you guys live together?
Okay, Connor, tell us a story. What is Sean's
There's a lot of stories.
What's his biggest idiosyncrasy?
Oh,
Yes.
There's honestly a lot. There's a lot. The first one that comes to mind is very funny. I lived with Sean and his brother, James. So I'm like an honorary Frank family member. Both of them, when they microwave things, they stop the microwave with 1 second left. Neither of them let the microwave actually beep. So their dad probably does it too. It's probably just a male Frank family tradition.
That sounds efficient. I don't know, man. Like, you're not disturbing anybody with beeps. I thought you were going to say I don't wear socks or shoes.
Yeah, that's the second one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm very, very famous for being barefoot. You know, you can call me Adam Newman, man. I'm out here at lunch and we work. I think that's the guy's name.
Do you guys have like a go-to number that you hit on the microwave? I have like a number that it doesn't matter what I put in there. It's like, 99 is about the right amount. And sometimes I'll stop it early, but in general, I don't try and think through it. I just like always
99 seconds?
Yes. Like 99 seconds works for a lot of things, anything coming out of the fridge usually. And so occasionally I'll be like, this is going to go badly and I'll pop it open a little bit early. But for some reason, it's easier for my brain to just go punch in the same number every time.
I don't have a microwave.
Oh, that is weird.
Whoa. Have they come to Canada yet, Matt?
You know, we're waiting for the donkeys to bring us some.
They're fantastic. When you get the chance, you should really try it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Microwaves and automobiles. We're getting there.
All right, guys, I'm moderating this week. The topic that I've chosen, because we have Connor here, this is the agency episode. It's an episode people have asked me for. How do you pick an agency? What are agencies? How to tell the good from the bad? I have a little bit of a primer, a little bit of a focus. I'm going to kick it to you guys. I really think that there are 3 types of agencies: performance, creative, and then just niche. So SEO, whatever a freelancer could do, dev, tech, whatever. And performance is pretty new, but typically when people say agency, they mean creative. I've owned an agency. I've worked with hundreds of agencies. There's some I love, there's some I hate. But first I want to start off with, what does the agency environment look like in 2023? Who are you using for what? And do you think it's still a good value? We're going to start with Matt, then we're going to go to Connor, and then we're going to finish strong on Mike. Matt, what's the agency landscape?
Yeah. Okay. So I tweeted this out, I don't know, man, it's probably 6 months ago, where I wanted to know, like, do people actually believe in the percentage of media spend model anymore? Because if you look back at like ad agencies, look at Mad Men, like all of them, right? Their whole business model was built on that. And it used to be, so like I used to own an agency. Actually, my first company that I sold was a development shop. So we did like custom software development, design and development, all for like e-com. And then we built some other stuff around that. So like I know the space well. I did that for 10 years and then sold it to private equity. So I don't know that the percentage of media spend model is going to be around much longer. I think that's like pretty much DOA at any scale. The only people that still do that are like really big ass Fortune 500s. And that's going to stop. We use dev shops. So I just try to keep it as little, like anything where it's like, I don't have a true full-time role Like we do project work with dev shops, like Shopify work. Like we're doing a whole personalization thing right now with Peel a Case, like make custom phone cases. That I'm using an outside shop for. Like I just don't need to know how to do that in-house. It's not a core competency of the business. I think like we kind of go out for those types of things. That's like my filter. It's like, do we need to know this internally? Is this something that we're going to continuously refine and get leverage in the business out of? Then I will put full-time people on those things. Otherwise, outside. And it's usually agency of some kind.
Matt, that is a great rule of thumb. What I always say is it mission critical to your business? If so, you need to own it. And for D2C brands, I think usually marketing, specifically performance marketing, is mission critical. Apple's not outsourcing engineering. You shouldn't outsource your engineering if that's, Facebook ads or whatever. But Connor, we're agency boys. That's our blood. So what are your thoughts? Is the performance model working, percentage of ad spend, or what are we hiring people for?
Well, I think Matt's right that getting paid a percentage of ad spend for basically managing ad accounts, like being within, it used to be, Sean, when you and I met at the agency, like kind of the typical model was you wouldn't create creative. You would have to receive the content from the client. You would plug it in to Facebook, and there was a lot of value to create there. And that was like, you could do targeting and you could be optimizing for different events. And there was like a lot of efficiency that you could gain in just the way that you set up the account. I don't think that's the case anymore, just because of things like ASE and PMAX and things like that. It's way harder to justify a percentage of spend from a pure media buying standpoint. What I say, the only thing that's worth paying for on a percentage of ad spend right now, which is a bit of a hot take, is creative. I think there's some really interesting agencies that don't do any media buying. They just feed you content, and they believe that their content is so good and is going to outperform anything that you do that they can charge. We've paid 15% of ad spend for certain creative, which is crazy. Wow. But typically how those businesses work is you're able to kind of battle test it within your account against your owned content. And if they're not beating it by the percentage they need to justify their fee, then you don't have to work with them. So it's a really kind of meritocratic model, I guess. But I think it makes sense. It also makes sense as you scale, just the volume of content that you need, you have to begin paying for at some point. So I think that trend's probably been around for the last like 2 or 3 years, especially post iOS 14 and everything else, when it's just become so content dependent. Proving your value there has been where I think people are creating the most value.
Sean, I think this is an interesting one. So like if you look at like Facebook and Google, because it's like really the two places people are going to spend the most money. They originally they rose to such success by eating media buying, right? Like traditional media buying, not the kind that they gave us. But if you like rewind like 20, 30 years, right? You used to have to like pre-book your media like way out. I'm buying TV for like the Super Bowl next year. You still do that. But like that's how all media was purchased. All of it, banner ads, like all that shit before like DoubleClick, everything was like, all right, I'm going to go put $10 million into ad spend. Hey, agency, whatever, Olsen in New York, here's $10 million. You go buy it and you keep your cut for it. So first they ate that. Now they've even taken the lunch of like digital media buyers. Like PMAX and ASC are basically eliminating another portion of the value chain of advertising. The question I would be asking if I'm like a creative agency, like performance, and I do agree with you, Connor, like I'm happy to pay a percentage of ad spend. If you think you can beat my best videos, knock yourself out. I'll give you a piece for sure. That's worth it. But I would be asking the question, at what point is like creative going to get mostly digested to? Like at what point does Facebook come for the artist?
I mean, you have a good history there. They've come for every middleman that's been in front of them because they have to grow that revenue. They have to grow that profit. But I want to double click on what Connor said. The Operators Podcast is a little bit different. We're gonna tell you the agencies that we've worked with that do this model and if it's worth it or not. So we've worked with Narrative, and I know Jeremy friend of the pod, has done a lot of business with Tube Science. These are two agencies that do creative on this performance model, right? They're very selective with clients. I was talking to a guy in the Slack group who can't get in with narrative because they don't think he spends enough. Because for them to make videos, they want to know that you can spend $5 million a month so they can, pay their bills or whatever. So, Connor, we worked with narrative pretty extensively. I don't think we ever worked with Tube Science. What are your thoughts on them as a shop and the whole model? And
cool. Good questions. Yeah, narrative. We worked for not that long. It was like 3 or 4 months last year. And to your point around their client selection is kind of crazy. They have a crazy business model. There's no commitments. You're only paying money on the dollars you put behind their ads. You test them right in the account. So if you're like, hey, this content's not performing, we're not spending any money on it, they don't get paid. So not only do you need to have a big budget, but they need to feel that your brand and product and goals, so like essentially like your margins, allow them to win. And even for us, they were like, yeah, we're not sure, but like, we'll give it a shot. They really, I think their bread and butter is like, I know that like, I forget some of the clients, but they were doing like DoorDash. It's the same sort of thing, same sort of point you made earlier where like ad creative is not mission critical for DoorDash. Like that makes sense for them to kind of pay for. They're in-housing engineering or something like that. So that's where I think their bread and butter is, but that's how they select clients. And then working with them, I thought they got incredibly good, incredibly fast. Like my initial impression was 2 or 3 rounds of creative, and they deliver it weekly. They deliver multiple pieces of creative weekly. Within 2 or 3 rounds, I'm like, this is really good. And I was on my first thought was, I'm nervous that we're going to have to pay them a lot of money because they're going to outperform everything that we do. That wasn't the case. And we learned a lot. That was like half of the goal going into it, was not looking for a long-term solution, but just like getting more cooks in the kitchen that we could potentially like kind of observe what their processes are. And we adopted some of their ideas. For instance, they're different variants. They're delivering probably 2 concepts a week. And then each of those concepts has 2 headlines and 2 hooks. So whatever that is, like 16 variants. And then they're testing those. So we like borrowed some of those ideas and ran with it ourselves. And then ultimately we're able to kind of outpace what they were doing. But incredibly cool business, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I want to tie in Matt's point. The big tech players, the ad platforms that we know and love, have eaten middleman after middleman, right? And right now, the message that they have over and over again, if you go to a Meta event or if you hang out at the Google office, is creative is king. That's what they keep pushing, right? Creative is targeting, creative is the answer, whatever else. They're working on creative behind the scenes, right? Yeah. So who knows how long creative is going to be king, but right now I do believe that. I want to circle back on the creative agency side, but first I want to go to Mike. Mike, you're Mr. Amazon. That's what I know you for. You dominate that field. The number one thing people always ask me for is Amazon agencies because there are no good ones, right?
Wasn't that today in the chat? One of the chats.
Yeah. And because if you're good at Amazon, you start a brand. That's what happens. So the only agency owners suck at Amazon. But Mike, you don't like advertising on Amazon, right? Like, you kind of tempered that. So
we've kind of gone all over the place. I think that, like you said, there's a bunch of different type of agencies. Most people who ask me, they'll ask me about, hey, do you have an agency recommendation for advertising on Amazon? And for most people, I think the answer is you should commit 20, 30 hours and you should learn how to do it. It is not complicated enough. And what you're going to need to do is not nuanced enough that there's no reason that you can't do it yourself. Which isn't to say that there's not people out there that are very good at it. It's just not, in my mind, complex enough that somebody can't handle it themselves. But and really in general, like this is the thing with Amazon is it feels really daunting from the outside. It feels scary. And a lot of people as kind of a crutch are like, oh, I'll find somebody to help me do that. I have kind of 2 problems with that in the agent. I mean, listen, there's some great people out there, so I'm not dogging on them, but I'm just saying the problem when you don't develop a competency and you say, I'm going to fix that through going and finding an agency that knows all that stuff and can think through it, is that how do you pick a good agency? How do you know if they're doing a good job? How do you evaluate performance? If you're not knowledgeable enough with the tools and of the ecosystem to be able to make solid judgments, then I don't even know how you actually evaluate performance. And so I think the only thing I really have to add to the conversation is I think agencies really help in the scaling process in different places. Every team, as it grows, has times when, oh man, we don't have enough in creative, or we're really kind of overwhelmed in this area, website design, whatever. And it would really help to bring somebody in. I think the goal is you're bringing in someone who can do a great job, but also that your people can learn from and can help give you vision for how you want to continue to scale your team. Like you mentioned this, sometimes there's a project that you need where it's like, hey, this is not an ongoing, this is a one-time thing. Right now we're going through website redesign with Van. They did the Hexclad, dark mode redesign, which is done fantastic for Hexclad. And based on their recommendation, and really just how the team, when we got on intro calls with their team, we know enough about designing a good website that it was clear these people are, at the very top of the game. So we'll do things like that on one-off projects, and we're happy to pay for it. And then there's other times where an agency is a really good step in the path of us growing that competency in-house, or even getting vision. Connor, I think what you said is a really good thing, that sometimes you can really learn from an agency. And so part of what you're paying for is actually learning from their expertise and how they map their expertise to your brand. And then you've got vision of, okay, here's how I can grow my team and how I can do that internally over time. So that's probably all I have that's helpful. And I just, in general, with the Amazon ecosystem, my advice to everyone is whether or not you use an agency for pieces, you really have to learn enough to be semi-competent, or I don't think you can even evaluate the partners that you'd want to use anyway.
Well, dude, Mike just took the panzerism of the week right there. You have to know enough to hire for a role, right? You can't do it blind because you're going to fuck up. You're going to hire like the best talking, the best looking, the best whatever, but that person's probably not the most knowledgeable. I think, Mike, that's the panzerism of the week. Look, I think we could have about 15 hours of agency talk between all of our experiences, but I just, I do want to give the best agencies a shout out, and we don't have to shame the worst agencies, but just what's the one thing to look for? Like, what's the red flag when you're about to sign a new agency partner? So we're going to start with, Matt, what's the worst thing? And then who's somebody you like? Because I do want to make it a little positive.
I'll give you who we're using right now. I got two that we're using right now, one for Lomi, one for Pillacase. Look, my red flag is when the agency's too good at selling themselves. Like when they're so fucking slick that it just you get this feeling that the best thing they can do is sell themselves. That is usually a red flag for me. It's like, God, you're way too good of a salesperson. This is not good. That's
not me and Connor. Me and Connor were not good at selling ourselves, but
yeah, I was not. I'm not a great a salesperson. I'm a let's talk about the work and what are you trying to do kind of salesperson. When I had my shop, that was our approach, right? It was just do the work. The two that we're using right now, so both are design dev shops. So one is called Him and Her. They're really good, great creative, user experience type creative. And for Pillacase, we're actually next week, we're launching Pillacase back on Shopify. So we're getting rid of headless, which is a 3-year-old thing. This is before Shopify had markets and multi-currency. We went headless because Shopify just couldn't do international. It was so bad at it. So we're using FuelMade. And I know that Bill, in one of our chats, Sean, I know he's used FuelMade. They've been my team really likes working with them. So those are my two. I'll give a shout out to both of those. And Mike, I do agree with if that's the panzerism, my God, is that good advice? We have a rule in our company, by the way, that we're not allowed to hire for a role unless somebody else has done it, and that you've done it you've bled from the fingers first. Right? If you're not bleeding from your fingers because you're doing it poorly and you're stumbling around, you can't hire a person to do the job. I feel so bad for anybody who I'm hiring a head of growth right now, e-com and growth. They're going to have to come through me. And I feel awful for those people. I've sold $5 billion worth of shit online. This is going to be a hard job to get. Like it just is. Because I've done it. Right. But it means that like you get better people. So I think, Mike, it's just such good advice to anybody who's listening.
Well, if anybody is listening and they want to work for Matt, just go ahead and email him, Matt.
It ain't going to be easy.
Earth. There you go.
Go ahead. Take a shot. You better be good.
All right, Connor, biggest agency red flag, worst or best agency we currently work with, your pick.
Yeah. So I don't have a red flag, but I think we're all kind of implicitly making this point. Another trend, again, it doesn't become a red flag, but like the model that I think feels a bit antiquated now are like the turnkey full suite agencies. I think it's incredibly hard to be as good as you need to be across multiple facets. So I guess I wouldn't say it's red flag. There are some good agencies that do multiple things. I'll call out Common Thread Collective, who we've worked with in different capacities in the past, is good. And they do a lot of different things. Otherwise, we're way more niche down with agencies, whether they're specifically dev or we mostly work with contractors or like small groups of people who are like barely considered agencies, who I really like. I'll call out Unit 203, who's they're just developers. They're Canadian based, very affordable, incredibly well versed in the Shopify ecosystem. And just do development, which like I can trust that they're very good at development if that's the only thing they're selling and doing.
Oh yeah, that's another red flag. If the agency does all the things, they do nothing well.
Right. Except for maybe Common Thread Collective. Unless
it's like this is the thing I started on. I have the depth of, because agencies, like you run into this, like I did this and it was a mistake. That's like you try to expand horizontally the services you offer. And there's always one that they're like 10 times better than the rest at.
Right.
Always.
Right. All right, Mike, biggest red flag.
So for me, it goes back to the panzerism. Since Jason's not here, I took his place about knowing the subject that you're hiring for. Bill Gates, there's this kind of famous thing that he did where when he was evaluating a product and somebody came in to pitch him a product feature, he would ask a really basic question. And then he would follow up with a more detailed question, and he would continue to kind of zoom in and get more and more detail until the person presenting to him could no longer answer. And one of the things it really showed is that Bill freaking knew everything about Windows. And that's why he was a master at being able to evaluate products that people were pitching and whether or not something was ready to go. And in the same way, if you are knowledgeable about something that you can ask one or two layers below the superficial response, then you can actually get a feel for who are the people that are just BSing and who has actual depth of knowledge. And what you're really looking for, I think the very best people, you can ask a question and they answer it in a way where it's clear. I could talk about this for an hour, but I also can give you a concise answer that shows you competence. And that's the winning combination. Sadly, sometimes you ask the first question, they give something that sounds pretty good, and you go one or two questions more, and you realize they don't know what they're talking about. They've been doing this for 9 months. There's no depth of knowledge here. So know enough to be able to ask good questions, and as you dig in, you're going to be able to understand the depth of knowledge and expertise that the person selling you has.
Love it. Now, Mike, is there any agency you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, so really been a big fan of VAM, working with them recently, as I mentioned. And another one that we've worked with is Anaheim Studios. They're out in California. I didn't mention this earlier, but it's another good example. Like, we do a lot of lifestyle imagery that's like on the beach. And I don't know if you guys know this, but no beaches in Oklahoma. So like another good example of like when an agency can make sense. Sometimes there's just even things like access to models and geography that can make it make sense. And one of the reasons why they've been a great partner is that they've really been believers in the brand, and I think understand culturally what we're trying to do and what we're about. And so it's been more that they're just good at creative, but they also seem to really understand where we're trying to go.
Yeah. And look, the reason why I asked about the best agencies, like these guys didn't know I was going to do this. We have no relationship with these people. It's really just because it's a shame that the biggest names are not the best names, right? Like there's some people you've never fucking heard of. They're horrible at selling themselves, but they'll do the best work at the best prices. And I've never heard of Anaheim. What is it? Anaheim Studios?
Anaheim Studios. They're never a creative studio in California.
Okay. But if you like Mike's lifestyle images, drop him an email. My biggest red flag, and a lot of agencies will hide this or not tell you the truth or be weird, like weirded out if you ask. Average client tenure. Okay. Me and Connor worked at a mega agency, hundreds of clients. The average client tenure, no one did the math ever. I was the first guy to do the math, and it was like 3.5 months. And let me tell you, it takes longer to get on board with an agency than 3.5 months. That means people were showing up and bailing out, right? So what you're looking for is, at least a year. I mean, maybe not too long, right? And if you're a new agency, it's hard. What if you've only been around for 3 months, right? It's just a track record of success and growth with a client that is successful. That's what I'm looking for. And, I think agencies that are worth their price or are good. Connor said, Common Thread Collective, Taylor Holiday is the professor. If you go on Twitter, there's nobody who talks about e-commerce and cares about e-commerce more than him. I would trust him to run holistic aspects of my business. And then I think it's Derek at Advisory Videos. I've sent him some business. They do great videos at very affordable prices. He probably doesn't want me to say that they're affordable. Maybe he's going to try to raise his prices, but we have paid very little for some really great videos from there. So that's who I look up to. So anyway, hopefully this helps with you navigating the agency world. We're going to spend more time talking agencies. Connor's coming back for a lot of episodes. Sendlane is the hottest startup in the D2C ecosystem. Everybody's talking about it. I think Jimmy's doing a fantastic job riding that hype train. Why are so many people excited? The value prop is just almost too good to believe. We're going to do everything your reviews app does, everything Klaviyo does, everything your SMS tool does for less. We're going to have the best UI. We're going to have the best, most modern tools roll out because we're building it today and not in 2013, right? So Sendlane, hottest app out there, proud sponsor of the pod. You're going to hear about them a lot more. We're going IRL. You can have the Operators Pod in-person experience in San Diego at their event. We're even flying Matt down from Canada. We're flying down from his villa. Mike's going to drive out here from Oklahoma. It's going to be a
covered wagon, baby.
Yeah. We're going to finally show Matt how a microwave works. He's going to blow his mind. No, but look, I want to talk about it because I'm actually truly excited about this. Connor won't let me switch over yet, but hopefully in Q1 we will switch over to the Sendlane experience. All right, Connor, what's your topic of the week? Pitch us.
Okay, cool. So what I wanted to talk about, this is a trend that I've thought would pick up over time, and I feel like it's beginning to change this year, but seeing D2C brands monetize their audiences more agnostically. And I'll give a couple of examples of how I see that happening. One, I've got an example here. Matt, I think Pila and Everyday Echo are a good example. Yep. You and I talked years ago when I was like first kind of exploring this idea. So I think that's a cool example that we can get into. And then more recently, there's Rocket, which is like a very popular post-purchase affiliate tool people are using. So these D2C brands parlaying their acquired customers into affiliate commission from like a HelloFresh or whatever else. And then you see people like drop shipping from third parties or running ads in some other way. And I'm curious your guys' take on that trend. Obviously, D2C has been hard to grow and be profitable. And I've always believed that brands are going to get more creative in how they generate revenue. And it feels like that trend is picking up steam.
Can I give you another one that we do that's a little unusual? We actually, I only do this with Lomi. I don't do this with Pila Case because the Pila Case volume's too high. And Lomi's like hardware volume in terms of units is way lower, even though the revenue's higher because, it's freaking 12 times the revenue. Because the customer we get is so valuable, we actually have like on-brand partners where we put their products in box with every new user as like a gift to the customer, but those other brands pay us.
That's a great one.
Right. And our goal there is like, I just don't want to pay for shipping. It's like whatever it costs me, like shipping alone, it's like nothing like a Ridge wallet. It's like $27 to ship one of these things, right, in the US. So like if I can whittle that down, it's like re-grabbing margin.
And what do some of like the in-package products look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's anything that like, I mean, so what we're trying to do is give people products that work with Lomi. So like compostable things that you can put in the machine. So like it could be compostable sandwich bags. It could be, compostable laundry thing. Like it just anything that's like a Lomi approved partner, which we continue to build that ecosystem out. So it just gives them a way to like get in front of our audience, gives us a way to offset shipping cost. Just not obvious. Right?
And I think it can
really
feel valuable. I think it can feel valuable to the customer too. Like you open it up and you're like, oh, I'm getting discounted disposable sandwich bags or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a great experience.
They find out about stuff that like, and it's like, so if it works for us because like when you get a little box of sandwich bags and it's like, these all work in a Lomi, that's like a magical experience for the customer too.
Right.
It's like, oh, holy shit, I don't have to use a plastic sandwich bag. It can just go in this machine when it's done. So like that kind of stuff we're playing with. And I'm intending on doing a hell of a lot more with like the Lomi audience, particularly like once we get the next version out, which is like going to have an app. That's when those eyeballs and that audience just becomes like incredibly valuable. But everything we do is like, how do I make the experience for our customer even better? Like, can I make it even better and make money doing that?
Yeah, that's like, the original subscription box, right? It's like, hey, we're gonna get products for free or charge to be in our box as a marketing engine, right? I think it's a great one. We've paid people for flyers and inserts and stuff, and me and Connor have done a pretty cool thing. But I want to hear from Mike first. Mike, you finding new ways to monetize your audience at all?
We are talking, Matt and I have talked about, hey, would it make sense to put Pillowcase, inserts inside of Simple Modern for, Earth Month or whatever. And I would say we're just considering the thing that you said, Connor, two ideas. One is I would never agnostically do it where it's like, oh yeah, you can just promote anybody post checkout, in Oklahoma, it'd probably be some CBD ad or something, and it's just like, I want to have some control over, or a lot of control over who we're associated with. But I think that one perspective I've had is when you are associated with other brands that you consider to be, aspirational brands that you think are doing a great job, I think that can actually be accretive to your brand, So like if Lululemon was like, hey, we'd love to put inserts, in Simple Modern, then it's like, okay, well, they've got a lot of brand equity. And even though it's an advertisement for them, some of that brand equity falls back on us in a good way that, these are the type of, these are things that go together. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. We would want partners that we feel like, if anything, there's a positive brand because I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's more money in this than I think, but it feels like when you start saying, hey, you can take my customers and show them whatever converts, that it's more of a financial move. It's kind of a, hey, your numbers aren't working kind of move. Whereas for us, like you said, Matt, I mean, it's nice, but I guess it put it this way. If it meaningfully impacts your P&L, then you're in a different type of trouble already, right? If you need a tactic like this to make it all work, then sorry, rest in peace. But I think when it's like just an additional cherry on top and, oh yeah, we're associating ourselves in the customer's mind with great brands, then that can be a win. And we're all trying to deal with the central issue, which is in e-commerce, it's just so much cheaper to ship multiple things than it is to ship one thing. Like one of the examples, this is not us partnering, but it's just an example from recently. We have a really popular item, Sean, you're drinking out of one today, this 40-ounce tumbler with handle. We had never put it on sale because we just could not get in stock. Well, we finally got our legs under us. It took us about 8 months to do it. And we were just kind of curious, hey, what would happen if we ran a sale to prepare for Q4 and some inventory planning? So on Prime Day, we didn't do a lot of fanfare. We didn't do a lot of advertising, but we put it on 25% off. We sent out an SMS and an email. So big pop, big lift from it. But here's the most interesting thing. Margins were up day over day. We put our, the item that's accounting for a huge share of our revenue, 25% off, and our margins went up. And they went up because people responded to the sale by just putting more in their cart. Mm-hmm. And because of the unique place that we are, it was still a win. And so that is the most counterintuitive thing about e-commerce, is the more things you can get in that box, the more likely you are to win.
I think that's a great point. Shopify released Shopify Collective, right?
Yeah.
So they're getting into the pairing brands together, drop shipping each other's stuff, but it doesn't solve the core problem Mike's talking about, which is you're paying for shipping twice, right? Like I'm shipping my stuff. I have to ship the Drake hoodie from someplace else, right? If people had 4 things to cart, now it's a $40.
But it is interesting. Like,
Yeah.
Don't you think, like, I actually, like, of all the things they announced, the collective thing to me was the interesting one. Because, like, discovery is the biggest challenge for brands, right? And I think, Connor, what your topic's actually a good one, because it's like, there's just discovery and then straight up, like, margin dollars per user. It's like, what can you generate? And most D2C brands, I think, are pretty myopic for the right reasons. I think it's a focus thing, and I think you should. On like, just how do I sell people more shit? How do I get more things in the box? And Ridge is like, when you guys made that acquisition, which I hope you're going to talk about, like that is an interesting thing now. Like you actually have advertising revenue as a business, I think.
Right.
And I do think that like the collective thing is interesting because like it's going to help with some discovery. I think it absolutely addresses some of the brand equity thing, and that like you can get brands associating with each other and putting that in front of customers, and like that's a good thing. But then I think it's actually going to open founders and entrepreneurs' eyes. There's like other ways to make money off this audience that you're you're paying more for them every year.
Right.
What I really think is Amazon's in a very difficult spot. Temu, Shein, TikTok, and Shopify are all moving towards third-party merchant fulfillment, right? Like Shopify Collective, TikTok is launching e-commerce. They've bought warehouses. Temu and Shein's hit me up. Temu's hit me up being like, can we have you as one of our merchants? So I think I think Amazon's the big dog people are hunting right now. That's besides the point of brands monetizing their audience.
Well, no, I mean, it is similar, right? I was thinking about it more from like a pure financial move, to Mike's point. But the more natural place for that is from like a referral standpoint. So you look at like Disco Network, which is the post-purchase referral tool that like we used to use. We don't use it any longer, but is getting more popular. You have like True Classic and Dr. Squatch on there now. That's kind of like, that's what it would be if Pillowcase shipped in Simple Modern boxes like that. That's the post-purchase equivalent. And then Shopify Collectives is an incredibly interesting feature from them, because ultimately Shopify has so much real estate on the internet, and every brand just sells its own products in a silo. Mm-hmm. And if we can begin like disseminating products across complementary brands, and all of a sudden you do solve a CAC issue. You pay for shipping twice, but your CAC is essentially zero.
The customer doesn't know that they're paying for shipping twice, though. Like, Sean, you're giving way too much credit to the consumer. Like, it's free shipping everywhere. Like, who fucking cares?
Right.
Like,
well, so the natural next step is Shopify Collectives, and then it's like, well, Shopify's fulfillment will just actually work now. We'll have everything together, and we're piggybacking.
Yeah.
And it's the reverse way to build Amazon, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I do wonder though, at what point, so what you guys, Connor, can you talk about like what you guys did with, is it Everyday Carry? Am I getting the name right?
Yeah. Everydaycarry.com.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everydaycarry.com makes advertising revenue and it has affiliate revenue. Those are the main way that it gets monetized. It is run as a completely different business from Ridge. We also, I mean, we now drive Everyday Carry users to ridge.com when it makes sense. But for the most part, there's not too much cross-pollination. Yeah,
I think I do think we're going to get to another generation of the media company and commerce combo. So like we had people attempt this, like BuzzFeed and some other shit. They gave like a good V1 crack at it, whatever your opinion of the model is, like the whole like content, the commerce and media thing. I do think that in the next 5 years, you're going to see like some really meaningful shots at that, where like they have both, right? Yeah. Like they're good at producing media and they're good at it's probably going to be led by like the Mr. Beasts and the creators for now. But I think you're going to see the professionalization of that, and they're going to get like real brands, like real media brands and real brands. And that's going to be the move. Like, and I only bring that up because like you're seeing it happen in SaaS. like HubSpot buying the hustle, like that kind of thing is happening in tech. And that there's only a matter of time before like you see D2C brands say like, you know what, fuck it. I am going to buy that newsletter. I am going to like pick up a media property.
Yeah. I just want to say one thing about Everyday Carry. It drives 600,000 plus clicks to Amazon every month, it drives tens of thousands of dollars in affiliate revenue every month. And the idea was like, oh shit, we'll just point all those clicks to Amazon.com/RidgeWallet. And, it is not a magnifying glass. It is a floodlight. Those people buy the most random shit on Amazon. And like we've tried to direct more percentage of those clicks, but like, no, they're like, no, I want to buy blenders or whatever. Just like the random stuff that they're buying. It's 2 decades of history on the website or whatever.
But look at the data you get too.
Yeah, I can tell
incredible.
I can tell you exactly what converts on Amazon in this niche. So it does help us build products. But Connor, I wanted to talk about something that we tried once that I want to go back to with this making money. And you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. We sell a wallet. Inside the wallet, there's a card. And I'm like, I want it to be a credit card. I'm like, let's make a credit card affiliate commission, right? So I hit up all the credit card companies, and the ones that will pay the most are the worst for consumers, and the ones that pay the least are the best for consumers. And we want our consumers to have a good experience. So we go to like the best, most like, the newest fintech that has no fees and no interest or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we'll give you $10. Right. And we ended up doing a deal with public.com, which like isn't a credit card, right? It's a stock or whatever.
They have a physical card. Was one of the things that we liked about it. Okay,
yeah. So anyway, I use public.com. It's great. We ended up getting that to work a little bit, but like, and I'm going to round numbers. None of this is confidential data. It was years ago, but it was like, they'll pay a $50 new customer acquisition, and like they want 40 of that to go to the customer in stock purchases, right? So it ends up just being like not worth the time and effort or whatever. But eventually I want to roll that out. I want to get bought by Citi or a Capital One. I want Capital One to buy us. So that's the plan I'm going towards.
Yeah. Or I used to joke, Square and Cash App could really use like a physical wallet component. I always thought that was cool. But yeah, we did public. We did a fintech company called Current that had a debit card. We have an RFID blocking component that some customers really love. We worked with aura.com, which is like digital security. So we were like experimenting with this quite a bit. The best thing that we did is back to kind of just more of the consumer first approach. We partner with people like Manscaped, just sent individual emails to each of our lists. And that was just a way more profitable partnership for us than
I don't understand why more brands don't do that. Like just do email swaps. Like don't look at like, oh, I've got 100,000, you've got 65. Like don't do that. Just fucking do the swap. Like you don't know the quality of anybody's list. Just like it's such an easy thing to do if you have a clear like audience overlap. Like it makes sense. Like absolutely. If you're listening, just start there. Do that. I'm surprised that you guys haven't screwed around with some kind of app or like some kind of digital service. I'm really surprised given like your age and like how tech savvy you are. Maybe you have and you just don't want to talk about it, but like I'm shocked.
Yeah, Connor's a Bitcoin millionaire, so I'll let him take
that. No, we've talked about it. I don't know. It would be like if the aura.com partnership had gone better and we thought, oh, there was like we could carve out with 10 to 15% of these customers who really appreciate the security of the RFID blocking, maybe we could kind of use that as the beachhead into like some more like typical consumer digital security services. But the best use of our time has continued to feel like it's just selling more wallets and launching more products.
Yeah, it totally is.
It would have made a lot of sense to launch a VPN, right? Like another advertiser on YouTube, but we'll couch that for a different day.
All right, let's talk Fulfill. Fulfill's a new sponsor for the pod. So you guys know this because you make fun of me for it. I used to work at NetSuite. This is like 2006, 2007, pre-IPO. I was a sales engineer at NetSuite. We use NetSuite, so we're not a Fulfill customer. We've been on NetSuite for years.
Boo.
I know. I get in shit for this all the time. It works. We manufacture stuff. It works for us. So But I really like what Fulfill is up to. I think that I have a lot of respect for anybody that is willing to go into that space. I watched firsthand at how hard it is to do ERP and accounting and WMS and order management, like all of that, right? And it's such a unsexy space. And I think that Fulfill, from what I have seen, like of friends that use them, is doing a great job at it. So as an outsider looking in, I'm super thrilled to have them as a sponsor for the pod, but I'm also just like, as somebody who came from that world, I really respect what they're up to.
I just want to say they're the Sendlane of ERPs, right? They're coming in here, modern tech, rebuilding it, cheaper prices.
They seem to be good.
And we just added a B2B warehouse. Very easy to switch warehouses with Fulfill. They integrate EDI directly into Fulfill. So it's like, all right, you don't do our B2B anymore. These people do. And it took 2 days. So,
oh my God, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's beautiful to have that independent layer that isn't, attached to, warehouses that can get hostile. All right, that was a pretty good ad. Sorry, Matt. I thought you used Fulfill, so I was gonna...
No, I'm going to talk about it though. Like I know the space really well. Actually, for years I was actually like, that was one of the things I was considering doing after my last company was going and building a NetSuite competitor. Because like I'm a software engineer, that's like my actual background, and I'm like, I want to go do that. Like that's unsexy. Let's do it.
I thought you were a famous actor.
No, it's funny every now and again. So because the YouTube video for the original launch of Lomi got like 150 million views, I get recognized. Nobody knows why though. Like they're like, man, I feel like I know you. Like in fucking LAX, I'll have people do this, right?
You do just have like, famous person energy, I would say.
Yeah, sure. That's it. I got famous person energy. So what I do get though is, this is so dumb, is you ever see the TV show or heard of the TV show New Girl?
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently I look like a dude from that show, and I get that. People would be like, oh my God, are you the guy from New Girl? I'm like, no.
That's a high compliment. That's pretty good, man.
It's the dude, like, because I had a crooked nose. So it's like, it's the guy with the crooked nose.
Yeah, dude, you're way better looking than that guy.
Yeah, well, look at that is, so now it's funny is like people like, I feel like I recognize you. I'm like, yeah, New Girl. I would just fuck with people. Like my like a bank teller here in town was like, what do I know you from? I'm like, New Girl. So whoever you are, dude, if you like ever see this, I'm sorry. I sometimes pretend to be you.
Yeah, I think he's a really big Operators podcast.
Yeah, right? Like, if you know that guy, tell him I am sorry.
Does that guy get asked often in airports? Hey, are you Matt? Are you
the Lomi guy? You sell like dirt? Yeah.
Episode 16 of Operators podcast. I love that one. Yeah. I'm sure that's what that guy's getting. All right, Connor, that was a great topic. Thank you for bringing that knowledge to our space. Matt, you want to talk about product launches?
Yeah, I really actually want to know how you guys do these. And I know like Mike and Sean and Connor, you guys have been adding a lot of product, like Mike bags, Connor, Sean rings and watches. So like we're coming up on the next big iteration of Lomi. It's been 2 years since we launched the last one, more than 2 years since we launched version 1, and we're launching version 2 in like the first week of September. So everything we're doing right now, I feel like I'm ignoring my entire company just to focus on this launch. And I kind of want to get a sense for like, how far out do you guys start planning them is one. How do you think about like the launch strategy, like the tactical stuff? So like what channels do you go into first, or do you go in like all guns blazing? Like maybe if you can like just talk through, and Sean, I'm sure you guys have more categories launching soon. Like how much time are you guys putting into this stuff way ahead of the launch? And then how big is the build up?
Well, I want to hear from Mike, because I bet Mike, how many new colors, SKUs, sizes, styles are you launching in the next 12 months?
I mean, it's a ton. In this guy alone, I think we launch maybe 200 colors this year. And we're having, it's become this like fly. So I'll tell a little story about that. We've got a hot product, and we've really leaned into the kind of fashion side of this, and we're bringing new colors constantly. And we've had a Facebook group kind of organically spring up. This is something that a bunch of us have been talking about, using Facebook groups to kind of, bring your community together and galvanize them. So anyway, we have one that just kind of organically formed. And these people are rabid collectors. Like they'll post pictures where they have, hundreds of our cups. And they really, really care about getting in when we have a new color drop, because sometimes we only have, a couple thousand and they'll go within an hour or two. And so they found a way in the shop app to kind of scrape our listings and to find out when we've set up a new variation, even if it's not live. And so they're like way out in front of us. The moment that we even kind of set it up, they're like already kind of at the gates, like, let me in. And we have one, I think last week, that it went on sale. And before we could get the SMS out or the email out, we'd sold 2,000 units, so 60 grand, and we'd sold it out. Literally, just because there was somebody from that group that I guess was kind of hitting the site and just waiting for it. And the moment that they went live, they posted it on the Facebook group, and they were just gone. So yeah, that easy strategy, right? Just do that. The way that we actually approach it, I would say, is it depends. The first thing we're thinking about is what channel is the dominant channel for this product. And this is something that's probably unique to us. So there's some products that we really think, hey, the lead dog channel on this is going to be Target, or like we have some exclusives that we're doing with Target right now. There'll be other products that, hey, this is going to be digital first. But even then, hey, does this make sense more with Amazon or with our website? And part of the reason for that is every channel has different nuances to how you would want to launch, I think. And if you don't understand what your dominant channel is, you get a pretty muddled approach where you kind of are trying to split the difference between a bunch of different things. So we'll kind of say, okay, we are launching this product. The main channel for this product is going to be Amazon. And we are also going to offer it on the website, and we're going to try and sell it to Target for next cycle. But Amazon first. When we go into Amazon in particular, I'll speak about that because you guys can speak about D2C more readily than I can, definitely with a lot more expertise. When we go to Amazon, it's really a question of how aggressively are we going to discount right out of the gates, or are we going to need to discount at all in order to get the initial traction, to get from, obscurity in the algorithm to where it sees you. For us with drinkware, the answer is at this point in our life cycle, we don't have to do anything. If we just put a piece of drinkware on Amazon, the people will find it and they will buy it, and the algorithm will pick it up, and it'll become the number one new release in its category almost instantly. But in something like bags, that's not going to be the case. So usually what it means is we're saying, okay, like with totes or beach bags. Beach bags is a good one because we've launched into that really effectively. On Amazon. Okay, we need to get this some initial traction. How much are we going to? Sometimes we'll start with a coupon. Sometimes it'll be a temporary deal. Sometimes we will just start the pricing lower for a month or something, and then we'll raise pricing and wholesales to Amazon. A lot of that depends on how aggressively we think we need to push it. A lot of people like to start with ads. And in general, my take is that's not the right way to start something on Amazon, simply because or that alone, ads alone aren't going to get you there because you don't have the review profile and the credibility that you need for people to click through and actually convert on that purchase. So if you want to drop price to something screaming and then you want to pay for ads on top of that so that people see it, that can work. But the most important lever is price. And what I tell people is Amazon is basically a massive algorithm that is built to do one thing. And that is when there is a screaming value, it will get it in front of customers' eyes every single time. It will find it and it will immediately surface it and make sure that people have eyes on it. And so as a result, if you're willing to get aggressive with price early on, you can move units really quickly. You can start to build that review profile. And we build a budget around, hey, how much do we think we need to sell these at a loss? Do we sell these at break even to get that initial scale? And I know generally brands are like, don't do that. That devalues the brand or whatever. But I always think about these kind of tactics as like, they're the very, very, very front end sliver of people who will ever own that product. I don't even think it impacts the way that people perceive the product. They just think, oh, I got an awesome deal on this. And sometimes it blows up in our face because it goes too well. So like on the beach bags, I'll give that example. We thought we're going to start with like a coupon or something. We're going to do that for, maybe it's a $10 off coupon. We're going to do that for a week. And then we're going to run a 7-day deal where it's 15 or 20% off. And then we're just going to let it go. So we run the coupon and we're getting pretty good traction. We got up to like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in sales a day pretty quickly. And then we said, okay, now we're going to start the deal. And we had to kill the deal within 12 hours of it starting because we sold, I think, $60,000 worth of bags in the first like 12 hours of the deal. But again, that's Amazon. The moment we put it on that really aggressive deal, Amazon got it in front of people and that thing moved. And so once we got it to that point of traction, and this is probably the other big thing I'd say is once you get a listing to the point of traction where it's getting surfaced at the top of keywords and people are seeing it, that's when you learn if it's going to fly or die. And there is a limit. If you have to repeatedly discount your item to get it back up to the top, that is a big red flag. What you want is one, really decisive discounting push if you're going to do this on Amazon, and that you want to see it when it gets up to relevance and people get eyes on it, that it doesn't drop back down the rankings, that it stays up at the top.
I love that. That's super tactical. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I have a question on that. You launch product on Amazon, you discount it to give it that initial traction. Are you also, you're driving people from email and SMS? Are you doing any sort of paid promotion on like a social platform to drive traffic?
We have not. I know there are some sellers that do, that'll use Meta and Google and they'll drive people to Amazon. We haven't, primarily because it's just real. You can't do any attribution, so you don't really know. And we haven't had to, I think is the other piece of it. One other thing I would say is that generally, you need to you want to keep your D2C and Amazon presence kind of in lockstep for two reasons. One is if your D2C prices are lower than Amazon, then they will scrape you and they will come back and drop your prices, or do things with your buy box that you don't like. But I think it's okay to be out of whack where D2C is higher than Amazon for short periods of time. And that's the approach we've taken on launches, that it's okay. It's okay if this is $39.99 on the website, but we discount it to $29.99 to get to traction on Amazon, at least for a short period of time.
What I wanted to say is we're trying to be more like Mike. Mike's like one bottle, 200 colors the next 12 months. Connor would kill for that. Like for the first 3 years of me and Connor working on Ridge as a project, we released no wallets. Maybe one, maybe two, right? Like very, very, very few variants and colors. In the next 12 months, there'll be at least 60 unique wallets that come out, right? But for us, it's product categories. So, Mike, we're trying to bite off a little bit of what you're doing. You got a machine.
Just to kind of double click on that idea, Sean, Taylor Holiday actually, Brian tweeted out about one of our colors that dropped and sold out before the messaging, and Taylor retweeted it and just said, or re-X'd it. I don't know. We're gonna have to like totally redo our vernacular now that it's X instead of Twitter. But Taylor retweeted it, and he was basically like, you don't have to worry that much about creative when you've got brand. Another way of saying it is creative gets a lot easier when you have new, right? That new is like there's a great Mad Men scene about this where he talks about new is like an itch, and it's really effective in marketing. And so when you're doing the same silver wallet, this is month 85 of the same silver wallet, that is a lot tougher than when it's like, this is carbon fiber infused with ruby, it's just this unbelievable. And you don't have to have the best creative in the world. Just showing it to people, they're like, yeah, I want that. And so I think that's the advantage, Sean, when you have a really robust pipeline of new products coming in ornamentation, is that it really takes a lot of load off your creative and your marketing team. Their margin for error gets a lot bigger. because they're showing something to people that's just inherently interesting.
Yeah. And that's the balance between marketing, product, and merchant. Like marketing always wants new. They don't care what it is as long as it's new, right? And the merchant's like, okay, well, we're going to build a system. That's what we're going through right now.
Mm-hmm. To quickly jump off a point that Mike said, he said, newness makes things easier. And I've joked with Sean because to his point, we had very little newness for a long time. I think we trained with ankle weights on essentially for 2-3 years. We had to figure out how to market these same products for a very long time. And it has made, since we've ramped up newness and product expansion and sort of new colorways and variants within those categories, it's made it much easier. So I'll say a couple things. Our first very large new product launch was last year with watches, and we went into it and I really did not know what to do or like what the real playbook should be. What my instinct was, and just kind of what we were trained on, I was like, oh, we're going to approach this from a volume perspective. I'm like, we're going to get a lot of content. And then what I feel really confident in doing is once we create that content, like once we're in market, we can iterate and we can learn and we can test landing pages and ads and emails and et cetera. So the only thing, the real playbook at that time was, let's identify the key value props that we think will matter to consumers. And then let's create lots of different content highlighting those in different ways. And we went to market with professional videos and UGC and like influencer content, et cetera, et cetera. And we really kind of, I think, over calibrated, especially given what watches were. Very okay launch. And the big takeaway for me was, the way I described it at the time was our trajectory was like a little bit off. Like we were 2 or 3 degrees away from what we should have aimed to do. And we did that whole journey and ended up pretty far off from where we ultimately wanted to. So moving forward, what we've done is not only are we thinking about value props, we're really trying to tie it back to like a core brand message and how does it support our mission, vision, and values. And then how do we create content and tie kind of a common thread between all of our channels? So at the very least, we have what feels like a cohesive strategy. And then when it comes to like putting together a channel plan, it does depend on the product. So like rings are a higher intent category. So we had more of a focus on search and shopping, obviously, but like YouTube and display where we could tap into more high intent in market audiences. And, you know, we'll be launching categories this year, which will be more of a discovery play. And that'll kind of change the channel mix. So that's how we've progressed just over the last year, basically, in how we've approached it.
You know, the creative thing is interesting because like when we launched Lomi, we made one video.
Right.
We put everything on like one scripted, like 2.5 minute, like, let's get the script right. Let's get the video right. We had like 8 different intros, like hooks, but it was like one video and we went all in. And this time around, I'm doing the same thing. It's like, here's one scripted video and we're doing a bunch of different intros into that video, but it is like high production. Like I'm just like betting everything on one video.
We launched watches like they were the iPhone. We had everything firing. We had every piece of content, every influencer, everything working together. And so I do think we'll change it by category, like Connor said, right? You know, we were more, you know, tempered going into rings, but rings are setting records. We every day continues to be better and better than the last day for rings. And that started off, you know, a lot slower. We didn't go with a full, you know, breadth of content, and we just learned over the past year. And I think that's probably what Connor's talking about, is like, just take your time on that journey when you're launching a new product category, because it's so hard to have an immediate hit out of this, like out of the gate, and just take a year to iterate and learn what people actually like and what helps them sell, test prices or whatever. Connor, do you think that's a good strategy?
Yeah, well, it's just dependent on what our experience has been. Like, I think we're really comfortable being in market and iterating. Again, having grown the business for multiple years with very few new launches, it's like that's where our bread and butter has been. And when we were going to market with watches, it was almost like we were trying to speed run our way to iteration, right? Like we're going to solve it with volume. We're going to compress 2-3 months of content creation and learning and start there. This is definitely not the right strategy. I think it can be different for everyone. I'm also not our background is not in, oh, we're going to have one beautiful brand campaign video and like we know what's going to work and what's going to crush. I would love to get there. That sounds like it has more peace of mind.
It's different though. Like it's like I'm launching, like I am actually, like the iPhone is an interesting comp. It's like, no, I'm just launching the next version of this thing that we have. Like here's a new technology, a new way to think about this. So like we have to take that, like our messaging is just like, this is the best iPhone ever. Right. It's like every year Tim Cook they get up and they say that. It's like, well, okay. But it kind of works. Like you have like this cohort of customers who really just wants the new one, right? Like I want the best iPhone. I'm going to buy a new one every year, right? There are those people, like those supers. So I do think like once you've got a category and a hero product, you can kind of do that. You can just like consistently every year have like the tent pole event.
Yeah,
right?
I think Manscaped's on Razor 11.0 or something.
Right. And it's like every time they add another version, it's like big deal. They make a big deal out about it. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think, Mike, we do with Peel a Case, we're similar to you in that like we launch new designs every 2 weeks because we manufacture on demand. So, we used to do every week and that was just too much. Like like you can't feed that much into the machine. But every 2 weeks, like we're putting out like a new collection of designs. Like we just did this whole wine country thing. It's like all these cases are like wine inspired for the summer. And they did well. Like it's just a whole new audience that comes in because they love that design. Now there's things that like I just think we're not doing well with Peel a Case when it comes to new design launches. Like I actually think we have way too much creative in our ad accounts and like we're not giving them enough time before we bring another design out. So like there is that balance, and Mike, you don't have that issue because like you've got so much demand for this one product, doesn't matter. Like you sell out of it right away when it launches. But for us, like with every launch and every design, we got to go create demand. Right. Like I got to fire the machine up. So I'm still figuring that out, but it works.
Hell yeah, man. Canadian Steve Jobs launching new iPhones every year.
Not every, dude, that's 2.5 years since the last time we launched alone. I hate product development so much sometimes. I love it. And I want to like gouge my eyes out.
The last thing is, you said like, yeah, we used to have ideas every week and launch new designs and now it's every 2 weeks. Because if you do it every week, by week 40, it's like just so uninspired. It's just, you're just doodling, right? That's like, you're just no creative juices. Well, sick, man. That was a great topic.
We appeal to a really broad audience. And because of that, we've always had a really diversified marketing mix. So we were early on Snapchat and we sponsored Dude, I Want That. We were really early to influencers, et cetera, et cetera. So we meticulously measured all of those channels. We wanted to measure them on a like-for-like basis. And we simply did that using Google Analytics, last click. Every single day, we would look at transactions attributed to a given channel and then divide that by spend that went live that day. So we get a last non-direct touch CPA by channel that's measured in the exact same way for every day forever. We started that in 2019. Or at least that's how far back my current dashboard goes. We probably did it a little bit earlier than that. That has a bunch of, and having that single source of truth and being able to be confident in the way that we were measuring things across time and between channels was really valuable for us and gave us the ability to kind of just make more data-driven decisions. Northbeam was really just an extension of that. So it's the exact same concept. You're pumping in all of your data from all your different channels. You're measuring it in the exact same way, but there are a number of benefits to doing it with Northbeam. You get multiple attribution settings, so you're not locked into the few that Google Analytics provides. You have better user identification, so we're able to reduce the percentage of traffic that comes in as direct none or branded search or Google organic and attribute that back to the channels that drove it. And we get to kind of label all of our campaigns in a way that makes sense for our business. So we can quickly toggle between our Ring ad campaigns and our wallet ad campaigns and our acquisition and our retargeting and everything else. And Northbeam just has a nice flexible interface for us to do that, which was a huge improvement over the very large Google Sheet that we were working with for, the first 3 years or so. So that's my pitch for Northbeam. That is how Ridge started measuring our advertising and how Northbeam was a kind of natural extension and improvement on how we did it.
Okay, and if I told you that I was going to take Northbeam away, how much would you pay me to keep Northbeam?
How much would I pay you?
Yeah.
I'd pay you quite a bit. I mean, Northbeam is one of the few tools that I use every single day. That's where we're measuring all performance all the time. I'm able to look at a really high level view. I can go in every morning and look, how did we perform yesterday across not only all our different channels, but our ads for certain products across all those channels. So I know how, Google search rings did and Google search wallets did, along with Facebook rings and Facebook wallets and everything else. And if we'd lost that insight, it would be a total pain in the ass. How much would I pay you? It's just a really tough question. It'd be a large cost to us doing it, but I wouldn't feel personally obligated to pay for that. So, that's what makes it tricky.
All right. Well, you heard it from the secret Northbeam co-founder, Connor McDonald, owns about 40% of Northbeam, and he thinks you should use it. So that's why they're a proud sponsor. That's why Ridge is crushing it. And if Hexcloud was here, he'd say that's why they're going to do $80 billion this year. Like that's
a stupid number. Yeah.
Yeah. All because of Northbeam and Sendlane and Fulfill. Thank you for listening to episode 16 of the Operators Podcast. We had my best friend, somebody who you'll never get a chance to work with unless you work at Ridge, Connor McDonald himself. We got Mike, the Bottle Man, and we got Canadian Steve Jobs, Matt. Thank you for listening. It was a great episode. Talk to you guys later.